an IPP podcast with Joe Outlaw. So, after I finish speaking, people, I'm going to tell you a little bit about IPP because a lot of my new subscribers have been asking as well, what is IPP? So, not only am I going to tell you exactly what IPP is, you're going to hear a podcast from Joe Outlaw, a serving prisoner who has been in prison for 15 years on a 4.5-year tariff, meaning he got 4.5 years IPP, indefinite imprisonment for public protections, or indeterminate imprisonment for public protection, which is an indefinite sentence. And he is inside of HMP Home House. 15 years he's been in prison. He got his sentence in 2011. So 4.5 years he could have went up for his parole and could have been released. But yet, over 10 years, over a decade later, he is still inside of prison. So I am going to show you the podcast that I've done with Joe. And before I go any further, a disclaimer. When you hear Joe's voice and you're thinking, well, Joe is recording a voice or he's been on a phone, I'll tell you exactly how we've managed to do this podcast. So Joe has been phoning his sister, who has been recording the phone call, obviously putting it on speakerphone, then recording it with a mobile phone. And she's forwarded the messages through to me. I've been sending voice messages back. She's been playing into Joe when he rings off the prison phone. So just a disclaimer, so anybody says, well, how come he's got a phone or how come he's managing to speak? It's on a prison phone that's been recorded, just to keep him out of any further issues with the prison system and trying to say, well, how come you managed to speak and do a podcast with Behind Bars TV? Now, I've got a lot of sympathy and a lot of compassion for Joe because he's a very talented lad. He has sorted himself out. He was doing a lot of protesting, and that's why he's become famous on the IPP circuit. He's the #1 campaigner in my eyes. Obviously, apart from the women on the outside who have been doing a marvellous job campaigning. Donna Mooney, Shirley De Bono, a few others I can't think of the top of my head. I should have gotten the name. Sarah. I'm sorry, I can't remember a second name. I do apologise, but I will put the links in the description. But these women have done fantastic for us IPPs. And I'm saying us, even though mine has been terminated, because I still feel like I am one of them. I am still one of those numbers. It's been terminated now. My IPP was terminated in 2024, September 2024. And I'm now out living my best life. And Joe knows everything that I'm doing. He knows where I'm living, out in Thailand. And he's sending voice messages saying, you have given me great inspiration. He wants to do exactly the same one day. He wants to come out here and he wants to get on and live his life. He's got his aspirations, he's got his dreams, and he's got the vision. And I've told him to keep that vision in your mind when you're in that cell, 23 hours a day sometimes. Just keep thinking positive, keep looking towards the future, and you will get that better life. So for the IPPs, people, an IPP sentence, imprisonment for public protection, is an indeterminate sentence that was used in England and Wales between 2005 and 2012, and the judges were dishing them out far too often, more than was necessary, and they give it to too many people that did not deserve it. It was designed for dangerous offenders who committed serious violent or sexual crimes, but whose offences were not deemed grave enough to warrant a full life sentence. Now, I've been told, whilst inside Franklin off psychologist when I was doing a course, this IPP was designed for the bacons and nonces, the ex-sex offenders. That's what it was designed for. But they didn't just give it to them, they give it to people that were going in prison for the first time. People, sometimes someone goes in prison for the first time and that's enough. They think, fuck, I'm not going back there, that's me done. But you get an IPP on your first time in, you're fucked. You don't get any chances. Your life is at a standstill until that's terminated. But it's only just came into force in 2024 about the license conditions. It was life license, so you're on license for the rest of your life. You can be returned to prison at any given moment. Then they changed it. After 10 years, you can apply to get your license removed if you've never been recalled back to prison. It's now been changed down to 3 years, I believe now. You can apply after 3 years. If you're not successful, after 5 years of being in the community, it's automatically terminated. They are trying to do some other things with the license. Correct us if I'm wrong, but that's as much as I can remember, or the facts that I know. And if you have been recalled to prison, when you get back out, if you do 2 years in the community without getting recalled, then it automatically terminates. So an IPP sentence consists of 3 primary stages. The tariff, the minimum term in prison set by the court to be served for the punishment of the crime. So some people were given 6 months IPP. And guess what? 20 years later, they're still inside of prison. How the fuck can you justify that? Once the tariff expires, the prisoner remains in custody indefinitely. They can only be released if they satisfy the parole board that they no longer pose a risk to the public. It was abolished in December 2012. Guess what? Because it was deemed inhumane. But yet, all these thousands of people, there was over 8,500 people given IPP when they were only supposed to give 1,000 out to 1,000 nonces. If they'd done that, it would have worked. The IPP would have been fabulous, because them type of offenders are totally different to offenders that commit violence or commit robberies. It's a totally different type of crime, and you cannot be cured if you are a nonce. That is your preference. You're always going to be that. So you should really have this sentence on you for the rest of your life, because your thoughts against little ones are never going to change. But no, the fucking nonce judges didn't think that way, did they? So it also goes on to say the stain on the justice. Critics, including the European Court of Human Rights, have condemned the sentence as arbitrary detention. Many prisoners have served years or even decades beyond their original tariff. Some as short as 28 days because they could not access rehabilitation courses required to prove they were safe. Ongoing impact. Because of the abolition was not retrospective, thousands of people remain either in prison or under indefinite supervision today. As of late 2024, over 1,000 people who have never been released still remain in custody past their original tariff. Unreleased. So here's the statistics, people. Current population statistics as of December the 31st, 2025. The total imprisoned IPP population is divided into 2 main categories. Unreleased, there are 924 people who have never been released from prison since the original sentencing. Of these, approximately 75% have served at least 10 years beyond their original tariff. Now, how do they justify that? Especially the ones whose 12 months tariffs and they've been in 18, 19 years. It's absolutely outrageous. So even the ones that have been released have been recalled back to prison. 1,464 people currently in prison who were previously released but since been recalled for breaching the license conditions, sometimes turning up late for appointments, sometimes missing appointments, or sometimes having discussions or disputes with probation officers who say, right, if you're going against what we say, you're having a discussion, you've got to bow down to them. Yes sir, 3 bags full. If you don't, then you get recalled. The majority of these people recalled back to prison have never committed any further offences. It's like I've just said, bad behaviour because you're not getting on with your probation, or you've turned up late, or you've missed an appointment. Absolutely outrageous. In addition to those in prison, there are approximately 943 people serving IPP sentences on licence in the community, a number that has dropped over 60% since 2024 due to recent legislative reforms. Qualifying crimes. So these were the crimes. There was 153 specified serious, violent or sexual offences listed under the Criminal Justice Act 2023. 153 separate things you could have gotten IPP for. It was absolutely outrageous. While the law allowed for 153 offences, they were primarily used for the following categories. Now listen to this. Who would you expect to be at the top of this category when it was designed for nonsense? You would expect sex offenders to be at the top of this list. Violence against a person, 35%, including wounding with intent and threats to kill. Sexual offences is 27.8%, such as rape, indecent assault on a little one, and assault. Robbery, 21.6%, often involving the use of threat or force. Other offences, arson, 5%, weapons offences, 2.6%, and occasionally serious public disorder or drug offences. A public disorder and you get IPP. These are the ones that have had 3, 4, 5, 6 months tariffs. And because they didn't have time to do the courses, they've been fucked around, they're suffering with a mental health, they're not getting released because they're saying they're still a threat to the public, and they've been in prison for 18 years on a 6-month tariff. Controversially, some individuals received IPP sentences for relatively minor crimes such as stealing a flower pot or a freer. This is what it says in this article here. Due to legal presumptions about dangerousness based on their prior criminal history. So now that I've explained everything to you people about the IPPs, not forgetting, rest in peace, over 100 IPP prisoners have killed themselves inside of prison because that was the only way that they could see that they would ever be released from prison. So these individuals, some of them actually carved IPP into the bodies with a blade before they strung themselves up, which is absolutely horrendous. But then there's all the statistics, I'm not sure, on the amount of IPP prisoners that were in the community in fear of being recalled back to prison. Loads have also killed themselves because they didn't want to go back to prison. Now, like I've said, I've got experience to talk on this because I was an IPP and I am still under these statistics. I'm one of the ones that got off it. But I suffered with it for nearly 20 years. I spent nearly 7 years in prison myself and then the rest of it on license. And it was an absolutely horrible, disgusting, fucked up feeling being on such a sentence for such a long time. But now that I've explained everything, people, without further ado, I'm going to show you the the voice notes from Joe Outlaw. I'm then also going to show you the ITV clippings, and I did forget to mention this one, sorry. So Joe Outlaw, prisoner in the UK, climbed onto the roof of HMP Frankland, a maximum security prison in Durham in June 2023, protesting about the IPP. During that protest, he caused significant damage, estimated around 170 grand, after escaping through a security gate and getting onto the roof. Now this is what got Joe in the headlines as well, because he was in HMP Manchester, he climbed up onto the roof. He's one of those prisoners, there's only a handful of them that can climb on any fucking roof, even though these roofs are supposedly climb proof. Joe is one of those talented people that can get up on the roof. So Joe was up on HMP Strangeway's roof. He wrote, free the IPPs in paint. He took some paint up with him. It was all over the papers. That took a while to get him down. They then put him in the block, transferred him up to HMP Frankland, put him in the block there, and he managed to get on the roof. And the prison was outraged. He made a mockery of them, and there was a big court case coming up. They were trying to shaft him, saying that he'd escaped, and they were wanting to give him a massive amount of jail on top. So in August 2025, a jury cleared him of 12 counts of criminal damage, but found him guilty on 2 counts related to damaging the prison and the rooftop protest. He was sentenced to additional time, an extra 3 years, 3 months on top of his existing IPP. So now he has to serve half of that sentence before he can apply for parole again. But it was a good outcome, and like I say, I'm going to show you the clip at the end of Joe speaking from ITV when they covered this piece on Joe, And Joe is very articulate, and you will see, because I'm also going to put at the end when he's doing his music, singing and on the guitar. He's absolutely talented, and it does pull on your heartstrings, some of the songs that he does sing. His case has attracted attention because his defence argued, seemingly for the first time in UK law, that the psychological impact of an indeterminate sentence can explain why someone took such actions. IPP sentences have widely been criticised as unfair and soul-destroying, with campaigners and legal observers calling for reforms. Many prisoners subject to these sentences have been held for years beyond their minimum tariff. And Lord Wolf is another one who's petitioned for the IPPs, and also the one that brought out the IPPs, which was David Blunkett, says it was his biggest regret ever because of the impact that it's had, the after and everlasting impact. But without further ado, people, here we have Joe Outlaw doing the first ever podcast from inside prison, inside of HMP Home House.
Yes, Ricky, thank you so much for having me on, mate. It's been a long time, really, hasn't it? You should have got on to this time ago and had an interview with you. I'm really, really, really pleased that you got me on, bro. I've got a lot to tell you, to be honest with you, mate. So, your first questions are basically, where did I come from? So I was born in Bradford, West Yorkshire, 1986. I'm getting fucking old now, you know. And I was raised up with my sister, Jill, and my mum. She was schizophrenic, and my dad was nowhere to be seen, really. And because of that, we ended up getting put in and out of care as kids growing up. So I'm from a place in Bradford called Homewood and Sutton Estate at BD4. Actually, really rough back then when I think about it, back in the 1980s and early 90s. Bradford was a shithole, you know. It's got a lot of money in it now and it's doing a lot better, but back then, man, God, it was mad up there. I mean, it was crazy. But I never really seen too much of Bradford, to be honest with you, because I spent that much time in care, because my mum used to get sectioned when we was kids. And, you know, you can learn some of my music and some of my tracks that I've done, how I reach out to her and, you know, in Pocket of Sorrows about telling her not to hurt herself, not to feel bad about herself, and, you know, the manic moments we had. Some of the things that I seen when I was a child was traumatic, mate. Like, thinking back, I don't know how I even coped with it, you know, and how you know, if I would think of my kids going through that now or someone else's kids going through what I went through at that age, you know, it's just horrific. So in that sense, I think, you know, despite being in jail, the person I am today, mate, I've turned out not too bad. Because some of the things that I went through, you know, manic depression and schizophrenia, it's a very nasty thing for the child to witness. You know, when they have them bipolar moments and the mood sinks so low and you don't recognise them at all. And you have to differentiate between a mother who's meant to be your mum and then a stranger who's very dangerous and very volatile and unpredictable. So it was tricky having to come to terms with all of that growing up. And it was all in and out of care all the time. So my mum would get sectioned, she'd go into a hospital called Rooftop, and then me and my sister then would go into care. But there's an age gap of like 7 years between me and my sister. So when I was 10, she was 17. She left care when she turned 18, and then I was then by myself. And I think I really struggled with that because she, despite like the roughness that we had in our relationship, me and my sister, because she bullied me like a bitch, you know, unreal. But she was there for a cuddle as well, you know. She was a good sister and very defensive and very protective over me. It's like a second mummy. So yeah, when she went, it was like losing mum all over again. And I think that's where like I started going downhill in my behaviour quite a lot, acting out. You know, you asked did I go to school. I haven't been to school. I've never been to school. I learnt to read and write in prison, sadly. Never really had a chance to. I was so poor behaved and misguided when I was younger. I mean, I went to nursery and stuff, but then after that, it was in and out of care all the time. And then when the social services try and teach you, you know, you got no time for that when you're a kid. You just want to kick off and create a scene. For me, it was running away. So where my criminality started, and I believe as well, my toughness, in a way, my survival, was from a very, very young age. So I used to run off. I'd just disappear into nowhere. And, looking back, the social services would be panicking, my family would be panicking, like, where's he gone? The police would be looking for me. I'm only like 9, 10, 11 years old. Thank God no paedophile or child murder didn't get a grip of me. It could have been a very different story, but I learned to be mature and grow up quite quick. But at the same time as that's got its benefits in that particular situation, it also brings together a different dynamic of criminality, of innocence getting taken away too early, and it just got to a point where criminality was just survival, and I would go missing and I'd just travel. I'm 10 years of age and I'm in a children's home in Chesterfield, and they catch me in Devon, or I'll go to Scotland, or I'll go Newcastle, or I'll go... I just used to disappear and I loved it. I'm not going to lie, I absolutely loved it. Just me, myself. And somehow, I'd always acquire a dog, Ricky. I don't know where they'd come from, right? But I must have had about 5 fucking stray dogs, right? Not all at once, one at a time. Every time I got off somewhere, I just ended up recruiting a dog. So it just used to be me and a dog, just travelling, gallivanting around the country, sleeping in tents and, all that lot, but I was only really young. So that's basically where my upbringing led me into, where the criminality started, I suppose. But it was all like, I learned how to rob a car, right? And rob a motorbike, so I had to hot wire. To an adult, it's just ridiculous, but to a child, when all you've got to do is pull a few wires out and spark them together, and next thing you're riding a 125 motorbike down the street, and you're only a kid. It becomes like crack to a young boy, that, and I loved it. I loved nicking motorbikes and, driving cars and nicking cars and, and messing about and stuff. I was never really violent. I've never, don't get me wrong, I've been violent in the past when you've had to be and stuff, but some people thrive off violence. I've not really been one to thrive off of it like that. Even growing up, it was always, just riff-raff behaviour, odd shoplifting here and there, buying, selling a bit of weed or whatever, and getting into bother, affrays and stuff, and, like nicking burglaries and theft and all that stuff, just riff-raff shite. But then, I had a miracle, right? So my miracle was this. It's the first time I got a proper family life, right? To mention as well, I've also got half brothers and sisters who I've now become very close with over the years, but it took us a long time. So my dad, he split with my mum because it was too much of a responsibility for him taking care of children and a wife who's got mental health problems. So he went gallivanting around and had other kids. And then we've now got in contact, I've got my brother, I had my sister who sadly passed away, God rest her. I've got another brother, I've only just started chatting to him. So it's really nice that community, that family now is starting to come back, although a lot of years later and we've missed out a lot of life, but it's a lovely thing to be able to reconnect again, and have that there. Loneliness is a horrible thing, and when your family, you've got to try and put family first, so it's been nice to do that. But yeah, so when I was 14, my behaviour at that point in children's homes, I got that ridiculous. I've been to 37 children's homes by the time I was 13, something like that. And social services, even though I was on a full care order, they couldn't find anywhere to put me. So it was a case of, what we're going to do with him. And then they ended up finding this place called Task, Time and Space Camp. And it was set in Bolton near Manchester. And they used to come and take you away and take you rock climbing, abseiling, canoeing, kayaking. I loved it because I'm from the city and from a rough-ass city. Being up in the sticks and being up on mountains and climbing, hence the reason why I'm such a prolific fucking climber now. It was amazing. I absolutely thrived off of it. I loved it. And that's where I learned how to abseil, how to rock climb, belay, all the rest of it. Anyway, so they come and pick me up and they took me to Anglesey in North Wales. And they told me, it's only while your mum's in hospital, it can't be a permanent placement, it's only going to be for, say, I think it was like 6 weeks or something. But I refused to go back. I loved it there so much. We stayed in a little static caravan in a place called Valley, near 4 Mile Bridge in Anglesey. Beautiful area, absolutely beautiful, gorgeous. And I refused to go back. long story cut short in that situation is I ended up meeting a girl when I was 14 and meeting a mate when I was 14, and their family took me in and adopted me. And I was the best years of my youth was actually with that family, and I'm not in contact with them anymore, sadly. If they are listening to this, I love you and I miss you so much, and you gave me the happiest memories I've ever had in my life, and I'll be eternally grateful for that. But, you know, some things need to be left where they are, you know. But there was a beautiful Welsh family, learnt me how to speak Welsh, and they spoiled me rotten. I was with them for 4 years. Now, here's the interesting thing about my name, Ricky, because I heard you in the past, I'm sure, on one of your podcasts when you was talking about me, say that Joe Outlaw is not my real name. Well, let me tell you something. It is my real name, right? So here's the thing about my name, to anyone else who's listening as well. So when I was born, yes, with my dad's name, right, which was Hodisi. But I was actually born Joe, but I was called Chris all the way through my life. When I left care when I was 18 years old, you get a pack through from social services. It's got your national insurance number in it, your birth certificate in it, etc. And I'm looking through it, and I see the birth certificate, and it says Joe Hodisi on it, right? I'm thinking, who the hell is that? Why is he saying Joe? Right? I rang my mum up. She's out of hospital now, but obviously I've been adopted now, so I'm with this foster family. But I rang my mum up. I'm like, Mum, I was like, I've got my birth certificate from social services, but it says I'm called Joe. And she's like, oh yeah, that's what we called you when you were born, but we changed it. We just never went back and told them. I said, what do you mean you never went back and told them? What are you on about? And she's gone, yeah, it cost money back then. We didn't have the money. We changed it. So yes, to do with the outlaw part of my name is my mum's name is actually Outlaw. We come from a family of outlaws, right? And people always think, oh, you change your name to be an outlaw and all that shit. The amount of times that I have been asked that question is unreal. But I genuinely haven't. I've not made the name up. It's my mum's name, it's my auntie's name, it's my family name. And when my mum divorced my dad, because I've got no love for my dad because of how he treated me and my siblings, and I didn't want my mum to have to be writing to us using his name, etc. I just went to my mum's, and it was just convenient that he was Outlaw, and, you know, I'm a bit of an outlaw, you know what I mean? So it is my real name in that sense. So to all you people out there think I made it up like a little crank, yeah, that's not the case. Joe I was born with, Outlaw's my mummy, that's that. So that's the question on that. Your next question was time in jail and criminality. So getting the IPP, so my first ever sentence actually I got when I was a juvenile. I think it was for like robbing a car or some other stuff, and I only got like a year, 6 months, and that was just YOs. The prison system was so much different back then. I know I was a juvenile, sorry, not a YO, so it was just like a children's home to me. That's how prison felt. It's just like a children's home that I couldn't get away from. You know, you kick off, you get wrapped up and get restrained, exactly the same as in the kids' home. You've got other people that are there and they're all a bit aggy and they've all got it. It was just very weirdly the same as care, you know, and I think a lot of people actually relate to prison as being like that, and that's when you see a lot of lads in the prison system, the vast majority of people, you know, it's a real big problem within our society that lack of care and that lack of direction, you know, nurture and all the rest of it sends people inevitably to the road of prison and crime, you know, and because a majority, I reckon about easy 70-75% of people in prison have all been in foster care and have all been in social services. You know, it's just a very big problem that, you know, it's going to be a long, long road to try and get above. So yeah, and then when I got my IPP sentence, so I'd actually settled down for the first time. So I found it very difficult to settle down because of the fact of all of the running away from the kids' homes and never having a rooted stability growing up as a kid. I thrived off of just gallivanting around everywhere. I fucking loved it. I didn't have any responsibility. I didn't care. You know, I was young and, you know, you just go around meeting girls, taking drugs, partying, you know, life's a fucking dream. And I loved it. And you know, that was, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I was obsessed with the seaside. I love the sea and the beach because, you know, I come from the city, you know, and I've travelled around the UK, but I was prolific, you know, I was just travelling around, just thieving, you know, just travelling around having a big adventure, living off the land, you know. Talk about Robin Hood and bloody whatever else, you know, Outlaw and whatnot. I was a little bugger, man. But, yeah, I've actually finally managed to settle down in Weston-super-Mare, right? And I was there for about 2 years. And I had a lovely girlfriend, and things was going really, really well. but I was still involved in criminality, so I wasn't actually settled down. Now, in hindsight, looking back, you know, I wasn't above my game, so I was getting that much money in to turn things around, etc. I was still a bit naive, even though I was quite mature, and, you know, it was a bit of a mixture of a few different things. But ultimately, I was still selling weed, I was still selling coke, I was still taking coke, I was still smoking weed, you know, I was still getting involved in things that I shouldn't be getting involved in. You know, and inevitably, I guess it was only going to end one way, and that would have been prison. But I didn't expect what to happen that happened and how my life has turned out to this day now. So, to take you back to the index offence, right? So, imagine this. I'm with this bird, and basically we're arguing all the time. Every time I come back, she's kicking off at me because I'm out late at night selling drugs, right? And she's having Valium. She's taking Valium all the time, right? Now, I didn't touch pharmaceutical drugs back then. I mean, now, I come to jail, I've tried probably most drugs that exist, and I'm not ashamed of that. I'm an addict, and, you know, it's a life I've lived, and that is that. I'm clean, I've got sobriety now. You know, I don't take drugs anymore now, I don't smoke anymore now, you know, I'm doing all right, I'm fit and healthy, but, you know, I've had my moments. But, yeah, so when I was there then, I've gone back, and she's like, take some Valium, just chill out with me, And I had an argument with her, so I don't want the Valium, I don't take Valium, I don't want them. Anyway, someone's coming to pick up some drugs, and my driver's gone home, so I've said to the driver, look, do you mind dropping this off? I've rang him, he's like, yeah, sweet, so I've given it to the driver's going to drop the drugs off. And I've turned all the phones off, and I was finally settled down, blah, blah. Next thing you know, the stones getting thrown up at the window. Now, where he's gone to deliver the weed and the coke, they've loved the price and loved the product so much, they want another set, and we're talking about $1.5 grand in total for what they wanted. I couldn't knock that back, so I've opened the window, I've switched on my driver, and I said to him, look, you know I'm settling down, mate. My bird's going mad here, she's losing her marbles, mate, she's going dingy at me. And in the end, I ended up obviously giving him some more, and he's gone again. But to shut her up, I said, just give us a Valium then. I'll chill out now, just give us a Valium. And genuinely, that's not me deflecting, putting the responsibility on her. I shouldn't have taken the drugs in the first place. I shouldn't have took some Valium in the first place. I fully hold my hands up on that. That's not me deflecting. You know, at the end of the day, the responsibility was mine. I took them, and it was my responsibility, and I took the drugs. But I just genuinely took them to going mad. I can't remember nothing else. And I woke up in the police station with the most savage fucking headache, right? With bruises all over me, thinking, oh my God, what have I done? What the fuck? And I've ended up pressing the bell, yeah? And the officer's come to the door, and he's gone, I said, what am I here for, mate? Why am I here? He's like, oh, you fucked it now. You fucked it. And it come out, it's a long story, I don't want to go into it all because it's long, you know what I mean? I haven't got time to do it all, like, it's got a lot to try and cover in this interview with you, Ricky, but basically I'd ended up demanding more Valium. I'd come out, I ended up getting off my barnet, going to this party, getting this shotgun, and walking into a shop with a shotgun, right? And I've ended up robbing the takeaway shop of about £300 and wasted my whole life, right? I had no need to rob that shop. I do not know why, but anybody will tell you, and to normal people out there that perhaps are watching this, yeah, they'll just be thinking, you're a fucking lunatic, you're a nutcase, you're walking around with a shotgun off your head on drugs. But to people who know criminals, and to people who know them kind of people, and I'm sure you know yourself, Ricky, Valium do very strange things to us, lads. It makes us have an invisibility cloak of empowerment that we can do whatever we like, and that's why I do not touch Valium, and I haven't touched them since, because what we actually call them, because Valiums comes in 2s, 5s, and 10s, yellows, whites, yellows, and blues are 10s, that's what all I had. People call them little blue charge sheets, because you take them and you're either waking up in a police station or you're waking up surrounded by drugs and phones, and you don't know how you've ended up getting all of this money and drugs and phones or whatever. You know, they're very dangerous tablets, and I wouldn't recommend anybody take them, because as much as you might like a day out, you know, there's a limit with them things, and you can do serious damage, especially if you're a criminal. You've got to be careful. So yeah, and then I got my IPP. So to your next question now, which is, how did I find jail and what was it like on the IPP? So how do I get all this out in the limited amount of time I've got? Right. When I first come away, I didn't know what an IPP was. I didn't understand it. I was very naive. And I just thought, oh yeah, do my courses and I'll get out. But it become very clear to me just how corrupt and how mentally draining and hopeless that sentence is. And the fact that you try and move forward, you're living in an environment which is fundamentally breaking from the ground up everywhere around you. You know, prison is a reflection of society, right? So how society runs outside is only going to reflect what goes on inside prison. So when you've got people outside that are in poverty, that are taking drugs, that are stabbing each other, that are shooting each other, young kids that have got no care for life whatsoever because of the way that they've been raised and because of what they've had to deal with as young kids and the poverty, etc., you know, that only then reflects on the prison system. So when them kids then come into prison, it's a jungle. These kids do not care, and it's gradually got worse and worse and worse and worse to the prison system that we have today, which people can try and ignore as much as they like. But it will be my mission when I'm in here and when I'm out there to expose every single thing and weakness and flaw that is there so people fully understand. Do not judge where they shouldn't judge and actually see things for what they are. And we try to come together to make a change, you know, and that's my mission now moving forward. But back then at the time, it just all overpowered me, and my mental health struggled, my addiction struggled, you know, and one thing led to another. But the one thing that always stuck with me is my resilience and my pride and my strength. You know, I'm not the smartest person. I haven't been to school. I haven't got loads of GCSEs and qualifications. I'm street smarts, right? And the system I've learned from my own mistakes. I've learned from other people's mistakes and from things that I see around me. But what I have learned over time is that you can never give up. You must stay to be as strong as you can and have conviction in what you do, you know. And people say to me, right, you can't fight yourself through the system. You can't fight your way through the system. In one sense, that's true. But in another sense, it's not, because I have fought myself through the system. And I'm proud of the person that I am today. And the people that I have around me are some of the most beautiful people that I've ever met in my life. You know, we've got to give credit to campaigners like yourself, Ricky. You've continued to fight. You know, you're over there in Thailand living the fucking dream now, yeah? But you've still got time for people in prison. You've still got time for IPPs. You know where justice is and what needs to be done. But you're just one in a very, very long, big link of people, you know, that don't often get credit what they deserve, or don't put videos out on TikTok and don't, you know, and I can mention a few of them because I know I'm allowed to, because I know they wouldn't mind, you know, so I think it's right to do so while I've got this opportunity. So Cherry, she's absolutely amazing. Cherry Nicole, she comes from Newcastle, Durham, and she has helped me so much and continues to help other IPPs. Those who follow the campaign will know the work that she does. Clara White is another one. She's now become an ordained minister. God love her. She's amazing. And she was there at my court case when we had the victory with the IPP, with the last roof protest. Also, little Roddy as well. He's amazing. Kat Rosina, she's amazing. That woman astounds me. You know, for people who know Kat, she's a young lady who's got such energy and such fight and spiritual strength, you know, and just not a judgment in the world, you know, and will help anybody she can. Her energy matches mine on the next level. She's unreal. I've got mad love for that cat. She's wicked. So, you know, a big thanks to her as well. Donna Mooney as well. She's absolutely brilliant. There's so many people, you know, and there needs to be appreciation for them as well. And I'm at that point now where I'm going to become one of them. You know, I want to get out and I want to make a difference. That's my plan. You know, the things I've seen in this prison sentence, in this time that I've been in, that damaged me without a doubt. And the way that I've seen the prison system pretend to care, pretend to want to rehabilitate, pretend to want to, you know, help people and do certain things for them and, you know, protect the public by rehabilitating this and providing these courses. The amount of hypocrisy that is embedded within that is absolutely preposterous. It's unreal. And there isn't enough people out there exposing that. And I'm going to make it my God-given fucking mission to do so. You know, when I do get out, the time will come and I will do whatever I can to help as many people as I can, to express everything that I have seen, everything that I have felt, everything that I have witnessed. And I won't let it go unturned, you know. I've got to put a fight down. And I believe we all have as well, you know, because justice is in many shapes and forms. As you know yourself, Ricky, we've had over 130 suicides. So if I just go back to that, so one of the things you're asking about is the protest. So to answer your question about, like, the rooftops and the protests, so if we start with, I've actually been on 6 roofs, right?
So each time that I've gone through vile abuse or I've had major situations go on, I put my own stamp down. So I've never acted out in violence, okay? So I know if I act out in violence, I can fight. You know, I'm not a weakling or whatever else, but violence isn't the answer. There's different ways to skin a cat. And you know, if I hit an officer, what happens then? I'm exactly what the IPP states me to be. If I end up acting out in serious violence, then I fall right into their trap in their hands. But that doesn't give them the therefore the reason to be able to put their hands on me, to abuse me, to violate me. You know, as in the past, to starve me, to beat me, to strip me naked. You know, to do all these nasty, horrible things that you wouldn't dream of doing to somebody. I can't let them get away with that, okay? And it's very difficult to get justice from behind the cell door, because no one can do fuck all for you. You're just stuck behind the door. You know, and even your legal teams and all the money in the world sometimes doesn't have an effect. You know, you still got to live with that every single day, day in, day out. And I believe that whether we have committed a crime or not,
Yeah, so no matter where, you know, whatever we've been into prison for, you know, you still deserve to be treated with decency and dignity, especially from those who want to set an example that is how they treat you or expect you to do so. So there's got to be times when you've got to stand up for yourself in a different light. Just me, myself, I could never take it. You know, so in them moments, I've done some mad things, and, you know, it just turns out that they've built up, and the things that I have done, no one else has done or been able to do to that extent. You know, so like HFP Long Lartin, and I was in a segregation there, and they sent me there. They took all my numbers off my PIN because they knew that I had access with the press, and they knew that after Franklin Roof that I was getting a bit of a following and some people supported me. So they isolated me, they took my PIN away from me, so I wasn't able to ring my friends, my family, anyone. And like I said before, my mother was seriously poorly. And then at the same time as that, they took all my clothing and my property and made it all miraculously go missing. And I was like, I've got to get out of this jail, mate. This is fucking savage. This block's just horrendous. It was horrible. You couldn't get any socks and boxers. You know, people were washing the same socks and boxers in the sink. There was no towels to dry yourself. People didn't have toilets in the cells. It was like, oh, mate, this is fucking horrendous. And I just went to war, man. I just started mashing the place up and doing this, that, and the other. But I ended up putting me in a special cell. Now, for those who don't know, but Ricky will know what this is, a special cell is what we call the high control cell. It's a mixture between a high control cell and basically a concrete box. So there's no bed, there's no sink, there's no toilet. It's just a concrete box behind the door with a hatch at the bottom. Nobody in Britain has ever escaped one of them cells. No one's ever got out of there. Joey Outlaw has. I got out of there. It was 1:15 in the morning, I think. And I pulled this. There's like a little slab of oak on the floor. So I pulled the slab of oak up off the floor, split it in two, beat the air vent out above my head, then beat the bars out. And I managed to be able to squeeze myself through the hole, get through a void, then got into a bigger cavity, and then kicked the door open, got onto the seg landing, opened everyone's flaps, caused a bit of a madness, got on the railings, had a standoff, bang, shipped out, total new prison, getting treated a lot better. If I had just sat there, I'd have been down there a year, you know, but I had to put my own force down, and that inevitably got what I needed to get to be treated the way that I should be treated, but at the same time, I then displayed that negative behaviour which they will hold against you. So you're always in the catch-22. You know, do you let someone undermine you, let someone patronise you, abuse you, treat you in ways which you know you shouldn't be treated? You know, but then, you know, oh yeah, I can go home if I continue to be abused and violated for years and years. Or do you stand up for what you believe is true? And I believe that in my actions I've done the right thing. So, you know, I've fought myself through the system to the point where now I'm banned from every ACAT. They can't send me to an ACAT because if they send me to the ACAT and I escape it, it just humiliates them. Because they sent me to Wakefield, I broke out of Wakefield segregation. They sent me to Long Lartin, I broke out of Long Lartin segregation. They sent me to Fort Sutton, I got on the roof in Fort Sutton in 2019 from the segregation. It took me an hour and a half. I was in an Ely suit, escape suit, and I shimmied across the barbed wire fence for an hour and a half, cutting myself to ribbons, where I then became first person to ever get on that roof and smash the roof up there and got transferred out of there. And then obviously you've got Franklin, where I'll go into that in a second, what happened at Franklin. All the Cat A's I'm banned from, so therefore now, I'm now in a prison, which I'm in Home House by the way, and it's natural they're actually trying to help me, so I've got to give the credit where it's deserved. But if I would have just sat down and taken everything that they gave me years ago, I would still be sat in the same places. And those who really understand prison, they get that. It's not easy, you know. It's a real difficult way to strategically get yourself through all of that, especially in the environment that we are in these days with how the prison system is, you know. So yeah, that's the reason why sometimes that behaviour's happened, you know. But in its sense, I didn't realise throughout the first, say, 5 years of that, of me just being resilient and standing up for myself, you know, being stubborn, you know, stubborn Yorkshire boy, I didn't realise that actually that's a campaigner right there. Actually, that's an activist right there, because I'm not standing up for stupidness. I'm standing up for what I believe is right, and the vast majority of people who know prison know it to be right. You know, and the difference is I stand for what I believe in, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, you know, and it took me a lot of years to realise that, and that empowers me now, you know, and it's empowered me for the past couple of years, and the support that I've had off of all the people that I mentioned, and strangers, you know, and people in the community, you know, that you would never think. You know, when I did Frankland, I had people writing to me who was NHS nurses, who was people who worked for Royal Mail, you know, people who worked in nurseries, you know, just random people saying they're proud of me. And I used to get teared up in the cell and think, how is this normal member of the public who worked for the NHS as a nurse proud of me? You know, she wasn't trying to chat me up or anything, you know, she was just genuinely, they felt like I was doing something right, you know, and that to me, you know, that made me know then that I'm doing the right thing. You know, now I've got to strategically move myself to get out of prison now. You know, I've built up the campaign now. I know what I'm doing now. Now it's about getting out and making a real big difference. You know, and that's what my dream is, to do that, you know. But if I just go back to Manchester for a second. So what happened at HMP Manchester, which is initially really what started it off properly, and I've got to say to the Manx out there, I love you, you know, because what you give me when I was on that roof was unreal. Wow, man, what a day that was. I was a memory that I'll hold very tight for the rest of my life. But yeah, so, you know, at the time then Dominic Raab was meant to be reviewing the IPP, and at the point I think 130 people had taken their life of IPP, and some of them the most traumatic cases and some of the most horrible things that you could imagine, you know, and it really got to me. It really started to weigh heavy on me. And at that point there, I just started putting my music out on TikTok and stuff, and I didn't have much confidence in myself, you know, and my material that I was writing, my singing voice that I was singing, you know, whether people would like it or not. But it soon became clear by tracks that were going viral and stuff, that people really loved my music and they related to it. You know, I might not have the best voice ever, and they might not be the best lyrics ever, but people can relate to it, and I sing from my soul, you know. And so I started putting things out on TikTok and stuff using the iPhones, and a lot of the things were coming back, you know, thousands and thousands. One point, one of my videos got like 140,000 views in the space of like 72 hours. It was crazy. And, you know, this is from a fresh person, fresh page, you know, it just blew. And, but the vast majority of comments was, what do you mean IPP? What do you mean they can keep you in prison? How can they do that? That's bang out of order. And then it became clear to me that the next generation, the ones that are going to be the ones that make a difference, inevitably sometime down the line, don't even know about this. You know, that the government has managed to do a fantastic job of what they do best, which is time stall out of people's priority. So what happens is they just keep delaying. Hopefully people forget about it. But the mistake that they made was, when people take their lives, people don't forget about that. So families will continue to campaign for justice until there is justice, and that's where the government went wrong. They thought they could just leave it to phase out. Well, sad for them, that's not the case. So the movement just kept rolling. You know, it's gone on far too long now, but it still keeps going. But at that point there, you know, we thought we'd hit a home run. We thought, yeah, we're going home here. You know, they finally admitted they did a Justice Select Committee report into it. Took over a year. I give evidence on that. A load of other IPPs did. And I read the document that they published. It was a 73-page document, as you'll know, Ricky. And it was explaining everything about the IPP in full, you know, and the problems, etc. And they said their main recommendation was to re-sentence us, because the system was incapable of progressing us, and it's causing more damage than necessary. So we all sat there thinking, yeah, we're going to get out here. Dominic Raab was on the sack line. He was resigning for misogyny and bullying or whatever. And he led us on the string, you know, he kept us
oh, I'm going to give my comments in a week, and then a week would go, and it's like, oh, I'll give my decision in 2 weeks. And you imagine all them IPPs that were sat waiting, all them families that are waiting to see if their people are going home, you know, and then in the end you give a 2-statement comment basically saying, my priority is with protecting the public, I will not be resentencing IPPs, or I will not be actioning this, or something along the lines. And I was infuriated. But mad enough, it wasn't because of me, because I didn't have my hope invested in it as much as what some others may do, because I've learned that the system is just reckless, and you can't invest in that kind of hope because it hurts too much. But it hurt me more when I found out that in the 2 weeks after that comment went out, 3 more IPPs killed themselves. That got me fucking infuriated. That really, really pissed me off, and I thought, nah, something's got to change about this. We can't keep doing this. People need to know what's going on out there. And that's when I decided I'm getting up on this roof, because I ain't getting my parole anyway. I had a charge for smashing a cell. Because of my behaviour, I knew I wasn't going, so I thought, I'm doing this, mate. I'm getting on that roof, and I'm painting 3 IPPs for the whole fucking world to see, potentially, yeah? And that's when I got up there, and you know, the climb was difficult, mate. I had to climb up the side of the building, which was about 200 foot high, whatever the hell it is, and then climb over barbed wire, and then swing on a bed line, 180 degrees around the corner of the building, and let go and free fall about 10 feet. Winded the life out of me, but I finally managed to do it, and without popping the bag, mate, I had full of paint. Got on the roof, painted on the roof 3 IPPs, and as you can see on the videos and stuff, it was freezing. I had a bag over me, I was shivering, it was a rainstorm, but you know what, Manchester come through for me, man. The police cordoned the roads off. You had loads, hundreds of people just out there, mate, just shouting up and supporting me. And when night time come, I took a bit of bud up with me, I had a bit of weed then. I took a bit of bud up, and I remember sitting on the roof, yeah, and I've all, up to that point then, I've done 4 roofs, I think, yeah, and I caused a lot of damage, and it's caused a lot of problems. But there was something about that time, because I knew I was doing it for other people, and myself, but mostly for other people, which just felt so beautiful to me. It was giving back, and that just felt amazing. And I was sat there smoking a spliff. I didn't damage a thing on that roof except 1 pole, which I needed for something. And I was just smoking a spliff, and I was just looking out at everybody. And all of a sudden, a car pulled up and went, "Look here, Joey, look here." And some guy drove up to the police cordon and lit off a big, like, 50 firework bang repeater, and fireworks are just flying up in the air, you know, no more than 50 feet away from me, you know, just flying up. And it was surreal, man. It was crazy. But yeah, so then what happened then? Bam, come down, and they sent me to Franklin. Landed in Franklin now. I'm in the segregation. I'm in a Cat A suit. Now we're in Cat A, different ball game, as you know, Ricky. You're being Franklin yourself. And, you know, them times there, them screws, they hated me, man. They wanted to make me suffer because they'd just seen all the press that I'd had, all the coverage. They'd just seen how much of a problem I'd been. You know, a couple of them were decent. They were requested, like, saying they'd seen my videos on TikTok and whatnot. But ultimately, the governors fucking hated me. And I was on a special diet, right? Because I don't eat open food, because paranoid a bit, and this and the other from being, you know, poisoned in the past and that. And they refused to give me my special diet. It was a clinical diet that the NHS has prescribed. They've got no choice, they can't refuse. But it was a way of conditioning and controlling your behaviour and trying to make you bow to them, you know. And I thought, no, I'm not having this, mate. You're meant to feed me that diet. You've got to give me it. Anyway, so I started being a bit disruptive and stuff, and then I was always compliant. I was always fully compliant. I never attacked them, nothing. One day, they came to the pad, and I built up a rapport with them now, so I trust them, so I trust the process. Joe, are you compliant? Yes, I am. Can you go to the back wall, please? Not a problem. Go to the back wall. I'm perfectly calm, mate. I'm not, when I break cells, I'm not threatening and effing and jeffing or whatever. I'm strategically doing what I'm doing for an objective at the end of it. So it's not a case of violence, yeah? And they know that. So they know by that point there, I've never had an assault on staff. So what they did next after that was just fucking disgusting. So they basically fooled me into a false sense of security. And then when I got to the back of the cell, they steamed in the cell, as many lads who have been in jail will tell you that's what they do. They steamed into the cell and they broke me up, you know, Ricky. Boy, they broke me good, man. They battered me, bro. Put me on the floor, licked me in the face, licked me in the head, dragged me down to the box, put me in a strip cell, stripped me naked, smashed me in the side of the face, bust my lip, then got off of me, laughing my head off, walking off like it's a joke. And I stood up in this naked, dirty strip down that stunk of about 1,000 men in this concrete box, right? And I swear to you, no joke, tears started to come to my eyes and make me feel victimised for a minute. Only a minute, my mush, yeah? Make me feel victimised for a minute, and straight away I thought, that. Okay, you want to treat me like that? I'll show you. And I just put my plan into place. I was like, okay, fine, you want to do that to me and you think get away with that? And that's when I decided, nah, mate, I'm going to show you what time it is. And I've gone out onto the yard one time. I'm in my cat A suit. I've got straps set around my trainers. I've got straps set around my waist. And it's a little square with a concrete wall going over around it, with 4 cages in the middle and a big massive cage over the top. Nobody's meant to escape these places. As you know, Ricky, the cat A's, mate, you're not meant to get out of them places. But I got some skills in that department, you know, it's proven, mate, and you know, when you're desperate enough, I believe anybody can, you know, it's nothing majorly special about me, I've just got a bit of heart, and I'm desperate enough, and what happened was, I turned around and walked out, I pointed to the floor, and I went, yo, what's that there? As soon as both the screws looked down, I just fucking bolted, mate, I was off, ran down the bottom of the corridor, turned left, ran down the other end of the corridor, and I just ran up the wall, mate. How I got up that wall, Ricky, you've seen the pictures on the TikToks and that, yeah? It's high, you know, bro. By God's grace, I got my hand up there, right, and I pulled myself up. And then, yeah, man, got the CCTV camera, strapped myself to the cage upside down, got the TV camera, broke that up, used that then to bend the cage and bend the bars, and it took me 9 minutes to break through that, bro. And then when I got up there, I was so empowered by the fact that now I am the one up there and the embarrassment that I just caused them, that then I just went in, mate, and I just smashed everything to bits. I went too far, to be honest with you, but I smashed everything to bits. And when we've had our day in court, you know, after that, then they sent me to Belmarsh unit, where I was put on a Cat A unit under the highest restrictions that they'd ever put anyone. Not even, you know, my good pal Charlie. He's never been in them, Charlie Bonson. He's never been in them conditions. You know, what they had me in was unbelievable. I had to be zip-tied my handcuffs, decuffed to an officer, dog out on a landing, flip-flops on my feet, e-list on, 8 members of staff on a landing, 5 members of staff on the yard. It was crazy. All my visits got cancelled. I couldn't see anybody. I got strip searched 150 times in 12 weeks. Like, they was trying to isolate me so much. And one of my very good campaigners and a valued friend of mine that I love the bones of to a day by, he's John Bowden, an ex-lifer. He come outside that prison and I didn't even know him. I had no clue. And the screw's come to me, right, and he's gone, you're a little bastard, you. I'm going, what do you mean? He's gone getting all them people outside the jail campaigning for you. I said, what are you on about? I genuinely did not have anything to do with it. Right? Not a thing. And it was at that moment when I truly understood how much power is in justice with the right way. I swear to God, because I did not tell these people nothing. I didn't direct them into nothing. And I got on the phone. I was like 1 10-minute phone call a day. And I rang my bird at the time that I was with. And I said, listen, love, the screw said that, and she took to me and got, nah, you need to listen to this. And she played me a video of John Bowden on a microphone outside Belmarsh prison with a load of campaigners with big banners and signs, all saying, they are doing this to Joe Outlaw, they are doing that to Joe Outlaw, what he has done for the IPPs, what they're doing, what da-da-da-da. And you know, if you want to check it out, you can find a link to it, it's on the TikTok. You know, but for me, in a place where I do not see another prisoner, I cannot hear another prisoner, they isolated me so much, you know, where I was so in on myself, to know that, hang on a minute, I don't even have to do anything, and I've got these people speaking outside for me, you know, for justice in the right way, that just gave me so much strength, and I will never, ever forget what that guy did for me that day, because he come at a time when I was nearly breaking, you know, when that grinded me down, and as soon as I heard him, I was literally crying on the phone, tears just come down my face, because it was like, oh my God, there is so much power in this. Right, so from then on I knew what my path was, I knew what I had to do to use my music to therefore be able to help other people and to be able to help expose what was going on. So that's what really empowered me then to start that campaign moving forward and gave me what I needed to do to move forward. And you know, it took me a lot of years to find myself and find that strength within myself to know my direction and to know what I've got to do. And then the court case was a very big pivotal moment in that. So what a lot of people don't understand is, right, and, you know, Ricky, you've got the clip there from ITV National News, you know, what that actually did moving forward could effectively have a lot of repercussions, you know, in a positive way for IPPs. And what pissed me off was, as you'll know, and a lot of people are in jail, Inside Times newspaper, they did say nothing about that, you know. They really didn't mention it because they didn't want, it's controlled by the Ministry of Justice, so they didn't want people to actually know how to be empowered by that actual verdict themselves. So I took on a case. All my legal team were telling me, no, all the way through, go guilty. But I went not guilty under the case of duress by necessity through IPP damage and what that has done to me and what has been proven to do to others, and also through the treatment that happened in Franklin Prison as well. So because I put that case forward, it seemed like a slim chance, but I always said, and I said to Kat Rosina, I said, I'll get on that dock, and when I get on that dock, I know I will get a not guilty. I know it. In my heart, I did, but you still have your doubts, but in my heart, I did. But it's still a very, very big part of my life getting that not guilty on them charges, because it was like finally, after years and years and years of abuse, me, for my own personal self, and for all them families, and for every other IPP, that day we had justice, because that day they had to recognise that IPP has caused that in some significant way, to the point where I got 12 charges out of 14, not guilty through the case of duress. And that there, even just the duress case itself, is so rarely used in British courts. All my barristers were saying to me, I mean, I was up for criminal damage charge of nearly £250,000, right? And I had KC, King's Counsel, which are ever used for murders and rapes and really serious crimes. I had a KC, I had a barrister, 2 solicitors, I had a governor who I believe you've had as a podcast. I've got to give it to him, he's a good guy, man. He's actually a rare one, him, because I know you got him on the podcast and you did a little interview with him. He actually come and give evidence for me at court. So imagine that. I'm at court on a Crown Court case trial for nearly £250,000 worth of criminal damage, and I've got a governor giving evidence for me against the prison system. That's how much of a big case it was. That's why we had so much media coverage. And what a result, and anybody you can, please, I need you to pass that clip on to people. It's not about views, it's not about getting followers, it's not about none of that. It's about making IPPs understand and aware that, yes, you have a responsibility as a human being for your own actions as you are yourself and what you portray and what you act like, but also the system has a responsibility as well for its ongoing treatment and for the previous treatment and its previous shortcomings of what that's done to affect other people, and that case says it all in itself. For someone to be able to get a not guilty under the case of duress through that, and they need to know they have got a legal standing for that. So you may have an IPP now that's in a segregation somewhere, getting his head smashed in, or getting starved, or getting abused, or whatever, and he might have a catch the case from that. Maybe he's assaulted a member of staff, maybe he's broken a window, maybe he's whatever else, and he's going into court thinking that he hasn't got a legal defence. And these barristers are going, yeah, just go guilty, you'll get a third off or whatever, yeah? No, mate, you don't have to go guilty. At the end of the day, if these people have made the mistakes, they need to be held accountable, just the same as they preach to us that we need to be held accountable, And then that just led them into now the Ipanji, which basically is a mixture of 2 kind of sentences that, in my eyes, are illegal. One of them is definitely illegal now, but the other one we're working on being illegal, which is joint enterprise. I haven't got the time to go into all of that, Ricky. I've had a long time on this phone, as it is with you, as you know. But, that's what IPANGI stands for. It's IPP and joint enterprise. We had this, first time we tried setting that up on TikTok, we had some operational issues, should we say, and one of the accounts got shut down over a dispute between managing the account from me and another person, and then somebody else helped us take it over, but it's had to go back, and now we're starting off fresh again. So anybody who can, please do visit the Ipanji. Please to support it as much as you can. I hope you like the videos that are on there. I hope that you get some kind of education from it at the same time, and it opens your eyes, teaches you to judge a little less. I hope you enjoy the music. I hope you relate to it. And as well, there'll be stuff on there about information moving forward, about sentences changing, about, exposing things that needs to be exposed. And that's where I'm moving forward. So I'm just playing my music, writing my music, and hopefully one day I will get out and, it will continue to grow and change. So I say thank you to everybody who has supported me. Thank you to all them campaigners that I mentioned previously. You've got my heart and I love you so much. Thank you to my family, to my auntie, to my brothers, my sisters, my nieces, my nephews, to all my friends, all my campaigners. I've got mad love in my heart for all of you. Ricky, thank you to you, my friend, as well. You're amazing. And I'll be over in Thailand with you soon, brother. So take care. I love you lots. I hope you found this enjoyable to listen to. God bless. Follow up, Angie. Bye-bye.
Hello, guys. Well, what can I say, mate? What a victory. I mean, I don't think some people understand just the gravity of what we managed to achieve that day in court. It was very difficult. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. You know, it's triggering. You relive the things when you go through them all again. And the stuff that I went through in that second, you know, just the stuff the IPP contains in general. Oh, my God, was it hard. I'll tell you one thing now. The support that I got off of people gave me so much strength. The victory that we had that day, everybody that I'm ringing up, people that are writing to me like, Joe, well done. Joe, you did amazing. Joe, like, you know, you should be proud of yourself and blah, blah, blah. And I am proud of myself. You know, I know it was difficult, but there's a bigger picture here. And it's the people that have been there for the past year, you know, past many years, but especially with this court case, you know, the past year, 6 months where, you know, the dark times, the hard times, figuring out legal things, you know, and pushing through. I knew I always had a precedent to run duress. And for those that don't really realise and understand the law, it's a defence that has very rarely been used in British courts and most definitely not been one with. We're trying to find out now exactly when the last time it was used, and we're talking decades ago. So to do that and win and get 12 not guilties through duress, through the treatment of IPP, is literally groundbreaking. And the potential positive things that can come through that and justice that can come through that is yet to be seen, but I imagine will be quite great in its entirety. There'll be a lot to come from it in time. I don't want to waffle on too much. I just want to give thanks to a few set people. I'm not going to mention every single person because there's been that many people who've supported me. I'd be here all day and I ain't got the bloody credit. But those people know who they are. The ones that were there in court, the ones that travelled up the country, the ones that come from hundreds of miles away just to sit there for half an hour, you know. It's just absolutely heartwarming. However, I have to say, I was a bit disappointed because, you know, I've put a lot of fight into this and a lot of other people have. And the victims from IPP spread far and wide. We're talking 126 suicides, yeah? When you think of that number, I want you to understand you've got 30 of them that are in the community. So when we talk about suicides in jail, we think, oh yeah, they're in jail, they couldn't cope, and mental health issues, etc., so they killed themselves. Not to minimise it, because it's absolutely horrific and traumatic for them parents and for everyone involved. But you see the reason. But then when the people commit suicide in the community, that's just a different level, because that proves just how much damage this sentence has done to people. That they are that terrified to come back, they would rather kill themselves, and that's when they have their liberty. You know, and the gravity of all of that, I would have expected for that court case, when I and everybody else has put so much time into it, that more people would have been there. I understand it's triggering for families when they've lost people, but that was your time for your voice. That was the time to come together and unite. So I have got to be honest with myself and with everybody that I am disappointed in some. They may have their reasons, but that's just how I feel. But to end on a positive, I want to thank everybody with my whole heart. And this is not just a victory that's been won by me. It's a victory that's been won by everybody who is involved. And for that, you all need to give yourself credit. Because not only has it been difficult supporting me, but you've had your own lives to deal with, and you've made time to support me in that due process. So you should be proud of yourself. And I'm proud of every single one of you. Because together, as a collective, we made such an impact that day. And it is yet to be seen properly. I want to thank ITV for the coverage. They was absolutely amazing. And, you know, the gratitude there needs to be seen. And I want to thank, believe it or not, the people in the courthouse, in the cells, who are some of the most decent, loveliest people I've ever met. So I wish them well as well. The fight continues. We're going to come up with more things to spread awareness. We're going to come up with more things and scream louder and louder. I won't be doing no rooftop protests, that's for sure. I've done everything I need to do now in that sense. But we all can still come together, and together we're stronger, you know? And justice will come. So all my IPP brothers and sisters, keep your head held high. Everybody who's involved in the campaigning, I love you lots. And let's see what the time will bring. Take care.
With the United Nations highlighting breaches of human rights in other countries. But there's a category of imprisonment here that the UN has condemned for holding people indefinitely. Imprisonment for the public's protection. IPP sentences were supposed to have been banned 13 years ago. Now the stress of being left languishing in prison has been recognised in court for the first time. An armed robber jailed for 4 years but who has served 13 used it successfully as his defence for another crime.
Oh, no, it ain't right.
Joe Outlaw is one of thousands trapped in a flawed system, held in jail under an abolished law. Singing helps him process his pain. In 2023, he staged protests on the rooftop of his prison, claiming his IPP sentence has made him, at times, suicidal. He was charged with 14 counts of causing criminal damage, but cleared of 12 of them. This is the first time stress caused by IPP sentences has been used as legal defence.
It's horrible to see. The sympathy had to get on a roof to get it out there to the public, because this government and the last government have not listened to any campaigners. It's a travesty, it's a tragedy, it's just misery.
Introduced under Labour in 2005, IPPs were abolished in 2012. 10 years later, the Justice Select Committee called the IPP system irredeemably flawed, claiming it caused high levels of self-harm. Campaigners say there are still more than 2,500 IPP prisoners stuck behind bars today.
How does it make you feel that people convicted in 2005 are still in prison?
Appalled.
One former judge told me he only used IPPs when he felt it was appropriate for serious crimes.
What IPP did was it obliged a judge to pass an indefinite sentence which was disproportionate to the offending concerned. I regard this scandal as a miscarriage of justice scandal.
Did you feel pressured to use it?
Well, it's the law. You can only avoid applying the law if you're a judge by resigning.
3 years ago, the Justice Select Committee called on the government to re-sentence all those held under this law. But still nothing's changed for IPPs in prison. And for the last 5 years, I've spoken to many of them regularly. They told me how excited they were to hear there'd be an inquiry, how devastated they felt at the lack of action. Now they tell me they've lost all hope.
The government says the parole board considers IPP cases every 2 years, but it has no plans to re-sentence. He sabotaged his own sentence to make his voice heard, but Joe and many like him feel no one is listening. Sangeeta Lal, News at 10.
Rest in peace, IPPs. I'll wait as long as it takes. I bend me, but I will not break. You will never keep us down. You can bend me and break me, take my liberty. I'll take all you gotta give to me. You will never keep us down. No way. They're sad for some, and now they're gone. I hope you hear our prayers in this song. I hope you know you didn't die in vain. No way. Your mom still got your picture. My God, does your dad miss you? And the dog just ain't the same. No way. And to my son, I hope you know you tried your best. There ain't a shame in tapping out like all the rest. And we hope you know that we're so proud. And it's been that way since you was a child. I'll wait a minute more. Yes, forevermore. 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 Beyond this door, my body's old and my mind gets sore. Just when I think I can't take no more, I slap on the tunes and rave to hardcore. It ain't easy when you sat there on your own, wishing you were sat at home, looking at the telephone. It ain't easy when all you see is grey, watching your days just fade away. The painting pictures, the telling lies, the making I like with different guys. Oh, tell me why so many die, and how many more mums must cry. Oh, oh, wait a minute more. Yes, I'll wait forever, I'll wait forevermore. Forevermore. Forevermore, I will wait until I'm gray and old, that I'm destined for more, or so I've been told. I don't know about that, but I do know this: I'm dedicating my existence to exposing it. All the deaths and mistakes, all the people that you break, all the pain you seem to make, and all the days you stole away. Some tell me that I'm young, some say I'm getting old, but I know one thing, my friend, I got a story to be told. Oh, oh, I'll wait a minute more. Yes, I'll wait forever, I'll wait forevermore. 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 Forevermore.
But as you can see, people, is very touching and very moving, and I do think Joe would actually appreciate some emails from supporters. If you do like the podcast you've just listened to, and you do like Joe's songs and Joe's articulate, the way he comes across, I will put the links in the description and in the comment section. I will pin it. I'll put Joe's prison number and the address for the prison, and you can go on and type in email a prisoner on Google, put his details in. You can send him an email, but make sure you put a reply sheet, and he will reply to you, people. So give Joe some support and let him know that there is a lot of support out here for him and for the remaining IPPs inside of prison. But if you are out here in the community, you are IPP, you want to come on and do a podcast and get your story across, hit me up, people, because I'm doing a lot more on these IPPs and exposing the injustice of this fucked up sentence.